Hey, Scott here with FantasyAces.com. Week 1 is in the books, and we're going to begin looking at the games for Week 2. Lots of crazy things happened, and we're going to talk about them right now with these matchups. We have the Bears and the Panthers in the early games. Matt Forte exploded onto the scene in his rookie debut. He's the main guy in Chicago. There's not much else there. Let's go across and look at the Panthers. The Panthers are still going to be missing Steve Smith. They have the duo in the backfield that are, sharing carries and taking value from each other. Hopefully that settles out. Delhomme looks great. If he could just get Steve Smith back next week, and he'll be a stud for the season, I think. He's going to be a great value for those that took him. Next matchup, we're looking at the Titans and the Bengals. Chris Johnson just is going to be an absolute stud from here on out, I think. Lendell White, seems like he's going to be the change of pace guy. Vince Young, what can you say? It seems like he's a few cards short of a deck there. Speaking of a few cards short of deck, look at the other side. We've got Chad Ochocinco. He's not 100% obviously, and it showed on the field. You have TJ Houshmandzadeh. He didn't look great. I mean, the whole Bengals offense hasn't been great. Their running backs, they're sharing, so that team is really one to avoid. Next matchup, we have the Packers and the Lions. The Packers looked great last week. Aaron Rodgers has showed that he's ready to take the job and run with it. Ryan Grant is a little banged up, but he did a nice job coming in, not being 100%. Those wide receivers, Jennings and Driver, that team is pretty solid. Looking at the Lions, Lions are, they've got some talent on offense, but they're just a mess on defense. Everybody just runs right through them. And I think that's just going to continue here this week, and they'll be passing, Kitna is going to be passing it up, trying to play catch up. Let's look at the Bills and the Jaguars. Marshawn Lynch is really all that's there. I mean, the Bills' defense is pretty solid. Special teams is pretty solid. But Marshawn Lynch is the guy that you want there. There's not really much else. The Jaguars, they lost a lot of offensive linemen this week. The line of front's weak. They played the Titans last week, and so their running game didn't show. But I don't know how great that's going to rebound with what they're missing up front. Matt Jones surprised, so we'll see what happens there unfolds. Raiders and the Chiefs. The Raiders look like a high school team. Let's be honest. They're not very good. McFadden kind of disappointed because Fargas is really, they said he was going to be the starter, and he was. And you know what? He put the numbers up, so he may be disappointing fantasy owners. Let's look at the Chiefs. Chiefs are another disappointment. Larry Johnson, I don't know what he's got left. Croyle's out, Heward's in. I don't know what this team's going to. This is going to be an ugly game. Very low scoring, probably, not many fantasy studs there. Let's look at the Colts and the Vikings next. Peyton Manning wasn't on his game, but I think he's going to rebound here. Vikings pass D isn't that great. They're up front, they're better, but he's got Reggie Wayne. Marvin Harrison looked good. Anthony Gonzalez, so it's a good crew. Adai gets banged up, but I think they'll be okay. Vikings, Tavares Jackson looked pretty good. Adrian Peterson, I think, is going to run all over the Colts. Matt Forte did, and Peterson, I think, is going to do the same thing. Looking at the Giants and the Rams, this game is going to be ugly. Giants are going to put up points, fantasy studs all through that lineup. Burris, and I think Manning has a 300-yard game and touchdowns. I mean, this is going to be a good game. Jacobs out of the backfield getting help from Ward. On the Rams side, you got to hope Steven Jackson can do something, but it just doesn't look very good. Bulger didn't look good. Holt had one catch for 9 yards. It's a mess over there as well. Let's look at the Saints and the Redskins. Saints lose Marquez Colston. That's a big hit, but I think they'll pick it up with Henderson and Patton and Meacham. I think Shockey will get more looks, and Bush will help out of the backfield. So Bree should still be steady. The Redskins on the other side, I think Porter should be able to run the ball on the Saints. Campbell looked horrible last week, though. Hopefully he has a rebound game, goes to Cooley a little bit more, uses his weapons better. Then we have the 49ers and the Seahawks in the late games we're going to be talking about now. Frank Gore is all you need to know about in the 49ers. They're playing a Seahawks team who really looked terrible in Week 1. Just a mess. They lose Nate Burleson last week. Now who do they have at wide receiver? Now Courtney Taylor, who's a backup going in, is the number one guy. This is a wreck. Matt Hasselbeck's back isn't quite right. Julius Jones is a starter. Maurice Morris is out. So we have a lot of iffy situations about this game as well. Falcons and Bucks. Looking at the Falcons, Michael Turner just exploded onto the scene, and even Norwood almost pitched in a 100-yard game backing him up. Matt Ryan looked solid in his rookie debut. He didn't have to do a whole lot because of the running game. Let's look across the Bucks. Greasy's in. Garcia's on the bench. I guess he could have played, but Greasy's in there. We'll see how that affects the offense. Graham should have a much better outing this week, and hopefully they'll use him more. We have the Dolphins and the Cardinals. The Dolphins still share in the backfield. Ricky Williams and Ronnie Brown. We'll see how that shakes out. Chad Pennington looked very good. We have the Cardinals. Kurt Warner should have a rebound game. He still has all those targets and Fitz and Bolden. Edgerrin James had a 100-yard week, so Timothy Hightower's in there getting goal line carries and receptions, so we have some value there as well. Let's look at the Chargers and the Broncos. The Chargers have LT. He's a little banged up. We'll see, what goes on there if they start sharing a little bit with Sproles in the back. Rivers should be pitching it to Chambers and Gates, who looked pretty good in week 1, as well as Vincent Jackson. Looking at the Broncos, they're sharing in the backfield. We've got Hall, we've got Pittman, we've got Young, we've got a bunch of guys, but Cutler looks great, and Brandon Marshall is back to go with Eddie Royal on the outside. Should be a good duo. Patriots and Jets. I think the Jets might pull this one out. Brady lost for the year. That's a crushing blow for the Patriots. Whereas now the Jets have Brett Favre, so now I think maybe we have a little shift in power there in that division. We'll see what happens. Thomas Jones should run it well. Brett should throw to Cotchery and Coles, so that should work out well. I think the Patriots will have to run the ball some more with Maroney and Morris. Let's go to the Sunday night, and we have Steelers and the Browns. We have Ben Roethlisberger, who should have a great game here, throwing it all over the field to Hines Ward like he did last week. Santonio Holmes should get a bit more involved. Heath Miller over the middle. Willie Parker, 3 touchdowns last week. That was 1 more than he had all of last season. We're looking at a good game here from them. Hopefully the Browns bounce back. I don't know what Jamal Lewis is going to be able to do against that defense. Braylon, hopefully he holds on to the ball a little bit better this week. Kellen Winslow should be good across the middle. Let's go to the 2 Monday night games. Baltimore and the Texans. They got moved to Monday night because of Hurricane Ike. Baltimore's, Flacco had a good outing. He didn't have to do much. LaRon McClain ran the ball a lot, so we're going to see if Willis McGahee can get back in here and run a little bit this week. The Texans, of course, they have Schaub. A little word out there that maybe they were going to pull him and put in Rosenfeld, so we'll see what happens there. But Andre Johnson should have a good game. We're going to see what happens to Steve Slayton getting his first start. And let's go to the last match of the week. This game is a great game. The Cowboys versus the Eagles. 2 superior teams fighting in division rivalry here. I think the Cowboys pull this game out. Again, they have all the studs. They've got, Romo, Barber, Felix Jones, Owens, Witten, and the Eagles same here. They've got McNabb, Westbrook. They've got Deshaun Jackson had a great debut with L.J. Smith at tight end. So I think it's going to be a great game. So that wraps it up for this week's games. Go to fantasyaces.com if you need help with your lineups, and we'll see you again next week.